welcome to Hedgehog Hollow, here today with LDRS, and today I wanted to show you a quick and easy card, and we're going to be using one of the new die sets, which is Waves and Clouds dies. So we have two different edges. I'm just trying to pick up the other one here. Both have a stitched edge, so when you cut you also get these beautiful pieces with that stitched edging on that you can use on edges and whatnot. But we're going to today be using our dies in a different way to use them as stencils. So I pre-cut this particular cloud here, and you can interchange these between waves and clouds. And I'm going to pop this on here. I'm using some of my LDRS inks. This is Swimming Hole, and this one is Dark Wash Jeans. And I have a Nuvo stencil brush here, and I'm just going to start with creating a background. I'm going to start with my Swimming Hole, and I'm going to pick it up on my stencil brush. And I like using a brush rather than blending foamies. I just find I get a better finish. I don't have to worry about any harsh edges or anything like that. I can just work away. So I'm just going to keep going up and down this piece until I have the coverage I want, and you can already see I'm starting to get some of those cloud pieces in. And the great thing is I can pick up some ink, I can add just a hint of blue on there, and also use both pieces of your cloud die cut. So this is the reverse piece of the stencil. I can go in and I can add ink on this piece too. And you can use these stencils as many times as you like. This is just regular stamping cardstock. There's nothing special about it. And you'll find it gives you just a slightly different edge because the ink kind of blends into different places by using the two different halves. And it's a great way to stretch your dies by using them for something else. So you don't just have to cut edges, you can make your own stencils and whatnot as well. So I'm just filling in until I get to the top with the Swimming Hole. And I'm just making sure everything has a tint. I don't want anything to be too glaringly white. So once I've got that tint, I'm going to go back in with the Dark Wash Jeans. And you can see I'm just kind of dabbing off onto my stencil, and then I'm going back in onto my piece because I don't want too much of that harsh blue, but I do want to add just a little bit of edge to some areas of clouds. So I'm trying to create a whimsical background. And of course you could use other inks. These are actually hybrid inks, they're the LDRS hybrid stamping inks, and you can absolutely blend with stencil brushes with them. So there I have some nice lights and darks between different shades of sky, so not everything looks exactly the same, and I like that it looks a little bit more realistic and whimsical, and I kind of have all of those fun tones in there, and the blue is lovely and refreshing as well. I'm going to pop those lids back on, and you'll notice I was just working on a piece of press and seal. Now I do that because sometimes when I'm doing a video I'll now forget to clean my surface, and then the blue ink ends up on my card and I don't want that. So this is just a really simple way of avoiding that. Just pop down some press and seal. If I'm doing anything particularly messy, if I remember, I will try to pop that press and seal down because it's just easy cleanup. Just pick it up and throw it away. So again, I'm using some of the LDRS Creative Hybrid ink, and I'm using one of the new stamp sets called New Beginning. This is beautiful. It's one of the creative creations from Angela Gamel, and I'm going to just stamp this out, and you can see what a beautiful image you get. You also get some other flowers, you have sentiments in here, so lots of different opportunities to use it. And I'm going to add just a flash of colour here and there, so nothing too intense. And again, this is just regular stamping cardstock. I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper here, and I'm going to just pop it underneath because whenever you're colouring with alcohol markers you want something porous underneath. And I'm just kind of creating myself a little colour chart on the side just so I know what I'm colouring. And I would like some pink. So I'm just going to talk you through the colours as I use them, and I'm also going to grab some pretty blues. Okay, I think we're good to colour in here. So I'm going to use 2 skin shades. By using hybrid ink, I can colour with watercolour, I can colour with alcohol-based markers, I can really colour with anything I'd like. You really ideally want to give your ink a little bit of time to dry or heat set it. We're in that process of redoing my studio, so I don't have all of my tools here. So I'm going to be a little bit more careful than usual as I add this colour in, because I don't have a heat gun to set it with. So just as I go over these darker lines. But normally when I work with a hybrid ink, I don't have to think about any of these things. I'm also not going to worry too much about shading on this one. I more just want to add some really pretty pops of colour. Bright blue eyes. So for her skin, I've used an E30. For the eyes, I've used a BG05. I'm going to grab some hair colours here. And I'm going with an E07 for my base hair colour. It's quite a strong base hair colour. But because we're not going to add too much shading, I didn't choose anything lighter than that. So again, so just filling in those areas. Super quick colouring here, so you can see that you can go in, and I've done lots of tutorials on how to colour people and skin and all those kinds of things, but you can also just do a really quick and simple colouring as well that's a bit flatter, but is going to give you a beautiful effect on that sky background. And the reason I used the blues on there was because of that new beginning feel that that has. Just making sure I have all of her hair. You can see how she's coming together beautifully. So that was the E07. I'm just going to add just a little bit of dimension. And that's an E08 that I've just done that with. I'm going to go in with an RV21 on this big tulip here. So colour that in, and then I'm going to take my RV23, and you can probably hear the girls playing out there, and I'm taking RV25, and I'm just going to blend that out a little bit, just to add some texture. So you can really see how quick and simple this is. It's really not taking me much time at all to do that. So I'm going to do all of these bigger tulips in the pinks. And then like this. So you can see just by adding a few flicks of colour, it really makes such a difference. And I taught some classes at the weekend, and something that I really noticed was that not many people know about the ability flicks have to give your work so much more depth. So if you are wanting to improve your alcohol marker skills, hop on to our alcohol marker playlist here on YouTube, and you can find out more about alcohol markers and flicks and things like that. And it's really worth just getting a piece of scrap paper and practicing to flick. So this is a G12. And there will be a linked blog post as part of this as well, and I will list out all of these Copic colours that I've used for this piece as well. So everything that's here on my table I will list out for you. So if you're looking for particular markers, then you can hop on over to the blog to find those, and that will be linked in the video description. So again, I'm just flicking a little bit of that brighter green colour into my leaves. I don't know about you, but I can hear Katy Perry in the background. I can even hear them dancing in the lounge. So they must be having fun out there. So now I'm going to go in, I'm going to colour her shirt. I'm going in with a B01 and I'm going to completely cover in her shirt. And I'm going to colour in her little neck collar there. I'm going to just add a little bit of shading, nothing major at all. So don't think you have to be a perfect colorist to approach some of these. I'm going to go in with that deep pink and I'm colouring in the spots, which is why I went with pale colours, so I didn't have to worry about avoiding those spots. You can also pop a little bit of masking fluid on them if you're worried about hitting them and you don't want to. I'm actually kind of colouring this a bit like my daughter. And then I'm going to use those same light blues in these tulips at the top here. And again, just some little flicks. So just practice on a scrap piece of paper, the size, the width, all sorts of different flicking techniques. Play around with what angle you hold your pen at. Really kind of get to know whatever markers you have, whether they're Copics, Nuvos, chameleon pens, whatever they are, just grab them and just, when you're watching TV one evening, just practice those flicks because you really will notice an improvement in your alcohol ink colouring. And if you can do your flicks, that's all I did there, just flicks into there, nothing major, nothing difficult. Also going to just add a small tint. Going to go back with my E30. So that was an E93 that I added that blush with. And then I'm going back with that same E30 that we started with. And I'm also going to use that E93 on her lips, just to fill that area in. So you can see that was really quick and simple colouring. So far we've been working on this card for about 12 minutes. And all I'm going to do now is take a small pair of snips and so I tend to do kind of a rough-ish cut. I do of course have a scan and cut, but for this one I'm just going to cut her out by hand. If I wanted to cut this bottom piece out with a scan and cut, I would just draw a black line here and the scan and cut would then pick up that line and cut it out for you. Otherwise it's not going to know where to end its cutting. So if you ever have an open piece like that, just draw a black line wherever you want it to cut. And so I'm using just the Tonic Tim Holtz mini snips, micro snips I think they're actually called. I will of course link everything in the description below and on the blog post for you. So I find that turning my paper backwards and forwards is actually the easiest way to do this. So rather than moving my scissors a huge amount, I keep my scissors still, and you can see here how I am moving my piece around. Okay, so that's our girl cut out. Just grabbing my guillotine here. So we're going to now trim everything down. I have a white card base that I've already made 8.5 by 11, cut in half as always. And I'm going to cut my matting cardstock, my first layer, to 4 by 5.25 inches I'm cutting my cloud piece down now to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. Of course, that means you can select the best side, or you can cut a little bit off of both sides. And I'm going to now map this up just using my Tonic Funky tape as always. And you just grab a refill for this. So I just grabbed a new tape runner because I couldn't find my refills quickly. So I'm just going to mat this on, and as always I always mat with my card open rather than closed, because if I have it closed it has a little bit of a spring to it. If I have it open it goes nice and flat for me. I'm going to pop this on too. And I'm going to use some foam pads to pop her up, and I'm also going to stamp out a sentiment. So I think I'm going to go with Spring Feelings as my sentiment. So let's stamp that on first of all. And so I'm just grabbing my piece here. A really juicy new pad, as you can see. So if this happens to you, that you have a new pad and it goes all over your stamp, just stamp it onto a rough piece of cardstock. Then I'm going to give it a little bit of a rinse under the sink just to get rid of that excess, and I'll show you as soon as I get to stamping that out in just a second. So I now have a clean stamp. It may not look it, but it is nice and clean, and so I'm just going to give it a very light tap and a test stamp. So I need to do a little bit. So I always keep a piece of spare cardstock around just so that I can kind of learn how much pressure I need to put on a stamp to get the stamping that I want. Now of course I could avoid all of this by using a stamp platform, but I didn't grab one of those, so I'm not using one of those. So I'm just going to put my Spring Feelings down there. And for that little bit that I missed, I'm going to grab my little black pen. And so I just kind of trace over. So I say, if I'd used a stamp platform, I wouldn't be doing this. So this is the benefit stamp platform will give you, is that you can stamp over and over again and you don't have to do what I just did. So the next thing I need to do is add some foamies to the back of my piece here, and I have these pre-cut Tonic ones that I was using to teach with. So what I actually have in front of me is my toolkit from teaching classes this weekend, because it all happened to be packed up really nicely. And so I've gone with double because the Tonic foam is not as deep as the foam that I'm used to using. And I'm going to pop that on there like that. And now I'm going to add just some Nuvo drops in the end. Now these are the grand size of Nuvo drops, so they're exactly the same as the regular Nuvo drops. This is the duck egg blue, but they happen to come in a big bottle. And so when I'm teaching, I take these with me because they last so much longer. And so I'm just going to pop a couple there. I'm going to pop one up here. And so I'm just kind of filling some of the spaces there. So that's my finished card. Super quick and simple. I hope you've enjoyed some of those quick techniques to use on your cards too. Do give us a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stamp the bell so you get notifications of future videos. And don't forget to check out the blog post that's linked to this, and of course all of your supplies in the description below. Happy stamping! Bye!
Being always